Hi, welcome to Hannah Saddle. My name's Liam, and today it's a very important topic we're talking about today. So we're trying to break the stigma in mental health. So obviously today we're joined by Alicia from Foxhall Animal Services. So just introduce yourself, Alicia. Obviously, what we're talking about today and how important it actually is.
Yeah, so I'm Alicia, as Liam said, from Foxhall Animal Services. So we currently run a full livery business, but we're also opening a CIC, which is involved around agricultural and animal learning. That's how we met Liam. So to me, breaking the stigma around mental health is so important because in our line of work, especially being a equestrian myself, I really don't feel like we get that support, and there is a massive lack of support in the industry. So what we're trying to do is we're breaking this stigma because it shouldn't be something we're afraid to talk about. This can help so many people.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, we have mentioned before whether obviously you work with horses on a daily basis. Obviously, you're from like the veterinary physio side of things, any sort of horse racing side. Obviously, it involves everyone, doesn't it? And obviously, we just want to try and reach out to as many people as possible.
Definitely. I think that's a massive part, especially like so vets, they have a huge amount of stresses on them. At the end of the day, it's their job, and there are animals' lives on the line, so that's a massive stress. Racing industries, there's deadlines, people who work in show jumping yards and dealing yards, everybody's dealing with those stresses. And especially when you are at the front, when you're like the boss, people rely on you, so that can be a massive stress. Like, I know myself, obviously I run a business, so I know how to deal with it now, but there was a point in my life where I didn't know how to deal with it and I didn't know how to cope with it, and that really did affect my mental health. So there are going to be people out there that it will affect their mental health, so it's finding the right ways on how to overcome that challenge.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, it's a topic we're going to explore and explore until we can obviously help as many people as possible who are out there struggling. And obviously, and I think Alicia will echo this at the end, and obviously what we go through today, obviously we're both here, both of us behind the saddle and Foxhall Animal Services. If anyone out there is struggling, you can always come to us. We're always open and we'll always help as many people as we can. So Alicia, I just want to talk to you a little bit about your story in itself. Obviously, I know obviously you
Mhm.
run a business, obviously a very successful business and stuff, and obviously you work day in day out, obviously early mornings to late night as well. I know you've struggled in the past with mental health, so I just want to learn a little bit about your story, obviously going forward.
Yeah, well, I was a little bit, so I grew up in West Derby in Liverpool, so that wasn't like, there wasn't a massive horse following there.
Yeah.
And it was my granddad that actually got me into horses, and I'll always remember him for that. So when I got into horses, I had to try and make something of myself in order to afford them. Like, we weren't a family that could have afforded them. So at 16, after my last day in my GCSE, I went and worked in Kent. So I went to Mepham in Kent. I was there for 3 months, hated every minute of it. Um, the work was horrible, and then I decided, right, I want to do my own business. So I moved away at 16. I lived in my horse box, and I absolutely loved it. It was fine. I lived in Telford for 5 years, between Telford and Shrewsbury. Um, so it was a massive stress. What I used to do is I used to produce, buy, sell horses. That was my job at the time, and I was show jumping alongside it. So that was a huge stress in itself. I was away from home, had no support system, anything. But my real part in mental health was I had an instructor that was very close to me. Justin, his name was. And he was fabulous. He was like the first person who really believed in me, and unfortunately we lost him to suicide, and that was something that I didn't even know was going on in his life. And I know we say a lot with male people that
Yeah,
they don't like to talk about it a lot. They
then
like
to
to be
speak
the
out, yeah.
macho man, yeah, and it's a massive stigma about it. So and I felt an immense guilt for that. So then that sort of like had a ripple effect on me and my mental health, and I was like, oh, what is the purpose to this, and what am I doing with my life? And like, I had so many stresses, but because I was running a business as well, um, it it didn't help the people I had in my life at the time. So like, even up until a couple of years ago, the people I had in my life weren't having a positive impact on me, and that made a massive difference on my mental health. Like, and I remember I ended up moving back to Liverpool about 4 years ago now, and it was the best thing I ever done because the people I was around at that time didn't do anything for my mental health, and it was like struggling. Like, because I didn't want to look like I wasn't doing well, because there was so many people
Yeah.
who wanted to watch me fail that I didn't feel like I could talk about my symptoms. And, I went to the doctors, I went and told them that I was depressed, and they were like, well, what do you want me to do? I tried the talking therapies, that didn't work. I was on medication, I was on a sertraline, I didn't think that worked. And it was trying to find a difference of what made in my life. And then I got to a point where I was like, right, I've dealt with so much in my life, and this is causing me stress. I need to eliminate these stresses. So it took a lot, but I ended up taking people out of my life that cause stress, or offloading stress, and trying to find a way to manage it and manage my mental health, because it's always something that is going to prop up. And there might be days which aren't as good, and there might be days which are really great. So it's dealing with that, and especially when you're younger, like what I was at 16, I had the world on my shoulders.
So obviously, I know there's obviously a lot of resources out there, and obviously a lot of people, obviously as you remember before, you had a tough time with obviously your friend passing away. How tough was that, obviously mentally for you, and obviously why do you think the right time is now, obviously to speak out and obviously try and break the stigma as much as possible?
I think it took myself a long time to be able to overcome that, but I wanted to be in a strong position as well, whereas when I'm offering advice, I want to be able to be out the other side of the tunnel. And I feel like now, especially over the last couple of years, that I am out that other side, and I can really genuinely have my own experience and how I felt. And I think now's a really important time because, as I say, I've overcome that barrier, and it's now time to use my experience to help other people, because that did really have a negative impact on me. Like, I've had, unfortunately, a couple of people that I know over the years that have
Yeah.
we've lost them to suicide. And like, even you see on the fire engines or the police vehicles or anything, you'll see it's like one life is just one life too many to suicide. Like, we need to break the stigma now, and even if it helps one person, two people, three people, like, it's better than nothing. So I think it's here talking about it now is 100% better than just sitting back and not doing anything.
So obviously from your experiences, how do you think that shaped your perspective on it now? Would you say?
I think it's been a very eye-opening experience, I
Yeah.
must admit, because it's something that before, like I was talking about my friend that passed away, before that it wasn't something that I really thought about, but then that really put everything into perspective, and it's like, wow, this is really people's lives. This is, people really get so fed up in life that they choose to, that the mental health battles them. And there's so many people that I talk to that, luckily I've got some really great friends now that will speak to me, if they're upset, or I can speak to them if I'm upset. And I think it's having those people in your life and learning to overcome it that way. I think that's just so important. And like, my life experience has given me those sort of key aspects to help other people.
No, definitely 100%. As you mentioned before as well, whether you obviously, I know men, there's been a big stigma around men speaking out, isn't there? And obviously, whether you're a young person who's obviously grown up in the sport and finding it difficult, or you're a woman who's been a woman or man, or whichever gender you are, obviously, and you've worked your way up, obviously, in the equine industry for so many years, obviously, people are going to find it tough at times. It's not all going to be the best, is it? You're going to have bad times as well as good times, aren't you? So I just want to speak a little bit about obviously the reality of mental health in the equine industry. Why do
Mm.
you think like mental health is such a big thing in the equine industry now?
I think pressure is a huge,
Yeah.
huge, huge one. Pressure is a massive one. So one of my biggest pressures, so I used to buy and sell horses. That was my job back in the day. And even though sometimes you would do your 100% best, sometimes say the horses wouldn't suit that environment, the owners wouldn't suit, but then you were always to blame, and that was like a massive stress. So opening your phone, you're wondering whether you're going to be on a dodgy dealer site, or opening your phone and you worry whether customers going to be complaining, or there's a horse that's not going to be happy in its new home, or owners that's
Yeah.
not going to be happy with the horse. Like, it doesn't matter 100% if you try and do absolutely everything you can and you're to the best of your ability, and sometimes it's not good enough. That is like crushing. It's a crushing feeling. But like, I worked in racing for a little bit as well. Like, I used to exercise pointers, and like, that was great. I work for a great lady. She was absolutely amazing. But I could see, like, when we go to the races, the other grooms and the pressure that was on them,
Yeah.
you know, especially with like the likes of banned substances. So, like, here at the yard, we have a butte bucket. So obviously that is like a substance that in like any sort of competition a horse can't have bute. Like, it's like, oh, did the horse touch the bute bucket, or did they had medications, you know, because there'd be horses getting blood tested on the back of the lorries. That happens in show jumping, happens in dressage, happens in all
Yeah.
members of the sport. You know, the pressures on the grooms, did they do this right, did they do that right? And it's like, getting the horses organized. Is there something that they've missed? Because a lot of people will have so much, and because they are like the sole person, like head grooms, especially on yards, they have so much pressure on them to perform and keep everything ticking,
Yeah.
that they don't want to talk about their mental health, because they don't want anybody to think that they're not strong enough for that role, so they don't want it to affect their life. Because I was the same. I didn't ever want to talk about my mental health, because I didn't want my clients or my customers thinking that I wasn't going to be good at my job because I was having a bad day. So I think that is a huge stress in the industry of people not talking to each other as well. But the actual industry just gives a massive stress because of the pressure.
No, definitely. Obviously, you did mention it before. Obviously, we do cover a lot of racing side of things, as well as obviously equestrian, obviously show jump and dressage. Obviously, I know I've spoke to a lot of jockeys the last couple of months, and obviously they do say it. Obviously, it's really tough, especially grooms and stuff. Obviously, getting up and early in the morning to going to bed late at night. Obviously, making sure everything's the best it possibly can be. Obviously, and there is a lot of pressure on you. Obviously, we've had some really sad stories, and obviously the racing where there are a few jockeys who obviously, on being jockey is quite obviously everyone's looking at you. You obviously how you've been to done everything. You've worked your way through from the start. Obviously, going to colleges and stuff, and obviously you've had a few sad stories. Obviously, I know there's a lot of organisations out there in the horse racing world, like obviously Jets and stuff, and organisations like that who do the best. But I just want to talk about what are some pressures that obviously in the industry that people don't really that understand as much.
It's probably gonna be like, in terms of, say, like your grooms, the pressures that they will have. Like, unfortunately, in the horse world, there's not a lot of money in it. You know, at the
Yeah,
top of the sport there is, but payments as well. So as you mentioned, people do work long hours, and that'll be early
yeah,
mornings, late nights, and the pay doesn't always match it. You end up not having that life, and then you're working all hours God sends, but you've not got the bank account to show it. But you want to do something that you love. Like, people who love animals want to work with animals, so that's like, that's a huge pressure in the industry. And in like the terms of, like, we're talking about racing, this is any single industry that you will go into, whether it's show jumping, racing, dressage, you know, whether they're hunt grooms. There is a huge pressure, but not only just on the grooms, on the riders as well. You know,
yeah,
we've yeah, there's so many riders that have got pressure, you know, to get a double clear, or to get this in a, or to win a race. There's so much pressure, and there's only so much you can do, because horses are their own animals, and sometimes they won't play ball, and then, you know, a trainer or an owner is then blaming you, and you've got to pick the pieces together and fix it. And sometimes it's hard, because there's not going to be a solution to every problem all of the time. Like, horses are their own beings, and they do keep us on our toes, so that is an immense amount of pressure. And it's hard for people to talk about that, because they don't want anyone to think any less of them.
No, definitely. And obviously, that is a big thing, I think, because obviously, when people have spoken to him, that obviously, like, obviously, the youngsters that are getting involved in the sport nowadays, obviously, the mum and dad might not be able to afford buy their own horse and stuff, and they've got to rent horses, and obviously, that is a struggle. Of obviously, growing up in a world where obviously, I did want to mention the topic of obviously, what do you think the difference is between obviously amateurs and obviously professional side of things? Do you think there's a difference there, and obviously,
I think there is,
how we can
yeah.
do more?
There is a huge difference in that, because a professional, that is their job, that's their bread and butter. They
Yeah,
need to perform, they need to do it well, because that is their job, that's how they generate money. If they don't do their job well, that is where the pressure is, especially in that industry. And then when amateurs, they're more, so I'd say I'm more of an amateur show jumper, like more of a rider, whereas I
yeah,
used to try and do it professionally, and that was my job. I used to produce horses to make money. Now I'm just doing it for fun. So when I go out, and say if I have a pole, or, you know, I don't go double clear, or I don't qualify, I don't have as much pressure on me as when I was professional and when I was doing it as a job, because I'm just going out and enjoying it and having fun. But the other pressures that amateur riders will have is they are competing against other professionals. And there sometimes can be like that little bit of a difference in the horse world, and sometimes it can be a bit of a nasty place at times. So then the amateurs will be getting the pressure from the professionals, but the professionals are trying to do their job, and an amateur says they've got a regular job or they've got another job, or even if they do something that I do, like a livery business, there is still an immense amount of pressure in their lives, which then sometimes can overlap over into when they're trying to enjoy the horses.
No, pressure is a big thing, and obviously, hopefully, we can obviously by talking today, and obviously further down the line, we can try and obviously help as many people as we can. So, I just want to talk about the little bit of warning side and the struggle side of things of obviously having mental health. Do you think like the tough it out mentality plays a role?
Yeah, I suppose it's like you do have to have a little bit of tough and grit,
Yeah,
because the only person overall that's gonna help is yourself. And whether that means by yourself talking to other people, I don't the tough it out in a way is just get on with it. I don't
yeah,
agree with it, because people will bottle up the feelings.
yeah,
But you do have to have strength. You've got to want to help yourself to be able to get any further, because people can give you advice and people can tell you to do this and that and the other, but if you're not changing what you're doing at this moment in time, it's not going to change. Your mental health is not going to automatically just get better because the day's changed. You have got at it as well. So another thing I mentioned before was the huge stresses in your life. And what I tell people now when they come to me, when they say they've got an issue with something or they've got mental health, I say, write down on a piece of paper, what are your biggest stresses in life and what are the
yeah.
triggers? Because there are triggers. Like, it
No,
could
definitely.
be money, it could be the people in your life, it could be, a friend that's not supporting you and is being a bit of a fake friend. It could be that, it could be family that's stressing you out. You've got to write them down on a piece of paper, find your biggest stresses, and one by one eliminate them. And then that'll be a massive weight lifted off your
Yeah.
shoulders. And it's like a puzzle piece. So once you've moved one piece, it gets a bit easier and easier. And it's not about toughing it out. It's using the right tools on how to be better, in a way of you will end up a tougher person, but it's not about ignoring it. It's about making the change.
Obviously, do you think obviously when people obviously are struggling with mental health and don't want to speak out as much, do you think there's a fear of people being judged or seen as weak?
100%, yeah. Definitely, because that was something that I never wanted to talk about. Um, because I didn't want to be seen as weak. I didn't want other people to think, oh, poor Alicia or poor this. And I didn't want that mentality. And especially being a professional, or when you're in a job, or say if you've got kids or you've got family members, you don't want to worry them. You don't want to think, oh, I want to talk about my mental health. And because you might have a mental health issue, but you might not be suicidal.
Yeah,
It doesn't always have to get to the point where that you don't like want to live. You can still have mental health, and it doesn't matter at what stage you're in. Every single person matters, but there is a massive like stigma around. People don't want to talk about it because they don't want to be seen as weak, but it's not
yeah,
about being weak. If anything, it makes you stronger. If you can talk about that, it makes you a 10 times stronger person. And it is very hard, but like you can talk to think on writing it down on a piece of paper, writing it down in the notes on your phone. Some people will use like GPT and stuff, and talk about their feelings on
yeah,
there. And sometimes it can help, because even just saying the words on your phone or onto like an AI or something, it breaks the barrier. And then you can talk to a friend, or like if you've got a friend online, and it's easier to write it. Because I myself, I didn't like speaking to somebody face to face about it, but I could type it, whether that be on a text message or a WhatsApp
yeah,
or Facebook message, because even though I was typing the words, I felt like there was that barrier between where it gave me a safety blanket.
yeah.
Whereas now I am at the stage where I'd happily speak to anybody face to face about my struggles, because I'm at the stage where I'm strong enough to deal with it.
No, 100% agree there. So I want to talk about a big factor, which obviously is social media. How do you think social media affects obviously the mental health side of things? Obviously, I know there's different various apps, TikTok and stuff, and a lot of question people on there or businesses are on there. Obviously, and I know people. Obviously, there's people that do say nasty comments and stuff like that. How do you think social media impacts it all?
That is a massive factor as well. Social media, it's about being judged on what you post. Like, I even do it now when i
Mm.
when i post something. I've got to make sure that it's not controversial, that's not going to
Yeah,
upset anybody, but everybody's got an opinion.
yeah,
And they're like, yeah, everyone's has got an opinion, the same as everyone's got a mouth. And I think that's a huge, like, I have got some like social media like TikTok friends. I have got people who are in the horse industry and who aren't, and they say that is a massive pressure, because once you put yourself on a platform, once you upload that video or you upload that photo or that post, it's out there forever.
yeah,
So that is huge. And I see it as well with like kids, like on the TikTok accounts, or say if they're posting a video of the riding and then people are nitpicking at the riding, or someone's
yeah.
always got an opinion, and it's really hard like to not get disheartened by it. But that can really help with, like, that can really, sorry, it doesn't help with social media being a main factor in it. Like, you've seen children before get bullied on social media, and then that's affected their mental health, and then they've took their life. So that is a huge factor, the social media these days.
No, definitely is 100%. So, what would you say? Any signs of someone that might be struggling? What would you look out for? I know everyone's different.
Yeah, everybody's different. So obviously the telltale signs of people that are quite, there can be quite bubbly people that you wouldn't know, because that's
Yeah,
what my friend was like. He was like, lit up a room. I never know. I did not know. I didn't have any indication, because he was the happiest person to me in the world. He was so funny. But some of the signs can be someone not doing what they usually do, or they're not checking in as often, or you don't see them, or if you do see them and you see they look a little bit down, they've got like tired
yeah,
eyes, they're a bit worried, or they're posting some worrisome posts, or they're not coming to like their local lessons that they usually do, or they're not showing into work. There's so many signs, but I will say a lot of people will hide it, and they will try and hide
yeah,
it, and it's when they're home and it's when they're alone, and that's when that happens. Like, and big events can also be a trigger, like say of a family loss or even a pet loss. Like, I've lost some pets this year, and honestly it's broke my heart, but I'm at that place where I can talk about it. So it's
yeah.
not, sometimes the signs aren't exactly visual and you look at someone and think they're sad. It can just be, they can be a little bit cryptic.
And why do you think that people find it hard to ask for help in the industry?
I think it's like what we were saying before. It's a lot. People think that you're weak, and
Yeah,
that you've got to be the boss, and people wouldn't want to trust you with their horses or trust you with anything if you have a mental health issue. And because there is a huge stigma that people think, or people with mental health, that they're in a psychiatric ward, or they're gonna commit suicide. Like, there is different stages in mental health, and when it gets to the end, yeah, there might be some people who like admit to a psychiatric facility, or there might be some people who take their own life. So it's still trusting people and being like, right, okay, if you can admit that you have like this issue and you are dealing with it, it's that trust barrier as well. So people don't want to admit it, because they don't want people to think any less of them.
no, definitely 100% agree there. So, let's talk about obviously the main topic. We want to try and break the stigma as much as
Yeah.
possible. What needs to change in the equine community to make obviously mental health aware more? People aware more of it.
I think I think we need some sort of forum, a platform, something, especially like this, to talk about it. We need
Yeah,
more people to come out and talk about it, break that stigma. If more people come out and talk about their story, like, it'd be more admirable. And I think it's having that support system. And as equestrians ourselves, we need to support other equestrians. I get sometimes it's competitive, and everybody wants to win, everybody wants to be at the top of the sport, but it's about assisting and helping other people as well. Like, it really doesn't kill to be kind. Sometimes helping somebody can make their day, and it's doing things like just a random act of kindness. I do them all the time, and it can change somebody, like even in day-to-day life. It doesn't necessarily have to be like in the equestrian world. Like, pay it forward a lot of the time is something
Yeah.
fantastic to do. If you're in the coffee shop, pay for somebody's coffee. That might change their day. And it's doing things like that, and talk to people, reach out to people like us. Anyone can reach out to me and send me a message, and they can call me at any time and speak to me. And I think we need like maybe a bit of a forum. I think as well, people worry. And if you see now with the anonymous posts on Facebook and stuff, and the anonymous like comments, maybe
Yeah.
something with a bit of anonymity that would help people talk about it. Like maybe a bit of a forum where they can talk about it, and they can speak, but without putting their name to it, until they're ready then to talk out as their person.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously, I second that as well. And obviously, if anyone out there is struggling, obviously they can always come to myself as part of obviously myself personally or my channel behind the saddle. And obviously the same as Alicia, obviously herself or Foxwell Animal Services. Obviously, I know we're both trying to come up with ideas all the time, aren't we? Obviously, we've both been speaking over the last couple of weeks to try and obviously, if anyone wants to come on the show and obviously talk about their past mental health or anything that they struggle with. And obviously, we'd love to hear from anyone out there who want to share their story. But obviously, what can employees do, or yard owners do, or anyone out there who obviously people are working for? How can they make it better for us all, or help in any way?
I think employers as well, a lot of the problem some of the time is that they aren't quite nice to staff. I see that all the time. Like, I treat my staff as equals. Everybody at the end of the day is exactly the same, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, it doesn't matter. You treat everybody the same. So employers can help with that bit of assistance. Or if somebody's having a bad day, don't get on the back, because everybody has bad days. If they're a little bit slower that day, or they're a bit more worried that day, don't get on the back, because there might be something going on behind closed doors that you don't know about. There might be something in their life that is a huge stress, and you're sort of putting the tip on the iceberg. So employers can definitely help with that, but also talking to your employees as they're a person, like a regular person, because some people will speak to them as if they're beneath them, and it
Yeah,
makes you like yourself feel horrid. Like, I've had it before with working for people, and they genuinely make you feel like you are so low beneath them. So I think that is a massive thing that like employers can do. But also like different members of staff as well. If you're working with a member of staff and you see something that you're not happy with, it's all advocating for them as well. Advocate for your animals and advocate for your staff, because at the end of the day, there's only one you, and nobody can change that.
oh, yeah, definitely, 100%. I totally agree with everything you just said there. What do you think we can do to like try and obviously help our friends and colleagues on a day-to-day basis? Obviously, I know obviously everyone has their own lives going on. Obviously, I know you mentioned before by just checking in on people as much as we can. Obviously, if people are having a bad day, always try and support them as much as possible. But what else could we possibly do in any way we could?
I think again, it's reaching out to
Yeah,
people. Like, say if you've not necessarily spoken to someone in a while, you can reach out to them and just say hi. Like, because like a lot of my friends, like, I will see what they're going on Facebook, and you'll like and you'll comment, or you'll see what's going on in their lives. And sometimes I'll pop them a message and just say, listen, you are doing amazing. Like, I'm so happy like watching you, or like I'm so proud of you, and something like that can really help. And it doesn't necessarily always mean you asking someone, oh, how is your mental health? It
yeah,
could just be like, how are you? Just general conversation, just like, like, you're doing so well, like, I'm so proud.
yeah,
Like, do you want to meet up for a coffee? Do you need any help with anything? Do you want to have a quick chin wag? Like, anything like that you can help with. Or you're next at a show and there's someone that you've not seen, do you want a cup of coffee, or do you want something? Again, there's so many things you can do. It's reaching out to people and talking to people, or engaging like on the social, when you scrolling overnight, you're on social media, like someone's comment on, oh, that was a really good round, or well done, things like that. And it does really, really help, and it gives somebody something to smile about, and I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously it gives people confidence, doesn't it? And obviously seeing them comments of other people and stuff, and obviously, as you said there, puts a smile on the face. So if there's anyone out there, obviously listening to this podcast or this episode right now, what would one thing you say? Obviously, if anyone's struggling out there.
Just reach out. Reach out to anybody. That could be me, it could be Liam, it could be a friend, it could even be like a forum that you go on, it could be a complete stranger, because I understand what it's like. Like, I never wanted to reach out to family or friends because I felt embarrassed, but what helped was talking about it to people that I didn't know. And then they did later on become friends. So it's just reaching out to people and just hang in there, because it's not like this forever. And if you make a positive change in your life and you work hard, you'll learn to cope with it, and it will get better. And I promise you that there is more to life than stress. So try and keep as stress free as possible, but always reach out to someone if you're struggling.
Definitely, and always keep that smile on your face as well. Obviously, this is our first episode, isn't it? Of obviously doing this and obviously
Yep.
trying to break the stigma. Obviously, me and yourself are always talking, and we're trying to come up with different ideas, aren't we?
Definitely, yeah. Definitely. So if anybody else has got any ideas on what we can do, what we can cover, what subjects, if you've got any life experiences that you'd want us to talk about but don't necessarily want to talk about yourself, we can come on and we can talk about them. And there's something in this video that you might have thought, wow, this really relates to my life. So that's important that you watch this back, and as we've said so many times, just reach out to us, and we really mean it. We're not just saying it, we really, really mean it. If you need to speak to us, speak to us. It's fine. Even if it's just not about your mental health and you just want to chat, just reach out to any of us.
No, definitely. It's been a good little chat today, and obviously,
Yeah.
I just want to say, obviously, thoughts go out to all the people out there who obviously have lost loved ones through mental health, and obviously maybe that's a man or anyone in the equine industry, anyone out there who have obviously lost loved ones, mental health. Obviously, please do speak out, and we'll try and do as much as we can to help from obviously behind the saddle and also Vauxhall Animal Services. Well, Alicia, it's been really lovely to chatting to you today. Obviously, we're going to
Yeah.
have more episodes out there in the future in the next couple of weeks as well.
Yeah,
Loads of exciting
definitely.
stuff coming up. So it's been lovely to chat to you.
Yeah, lovely to chat to you, Liam. And just another one just before we go. Riders Minds or Mind the Mental Health Charity as well are also a couple of good ones that you can reach out to. Samaritans. And if you literally just Google online, there's always so many options to talk about if you don't feel comfortable talking to either of us.